Second planning board meeting to order with 4 members present, noting a number of absences again. First item on the agenda is Daryl Johnson, tax map 38, lot 3, 68 Logan Circle. You're here for a setback reduction?
I am.
Okay. Would you just very briefly tell us what you want?
Sure. I was here last month to ask for a setback reduction on the for a landing that we put in at the base of a stairway that we put in there now. And I believe at that time the decision was made that we would stay any decision on that pending a walkout on the site, which was just done a short while ago. So now we're in here looking to see whether or not we can get that setback reduction changed so that we can keep the landing in the position that it's in now.
Okay. Did everybody here except me go on the site walk? Okay.
And you were missed.
And I doubt it. Are there any discussion on what you found on the site walk? Any suggestions as to what?
Well, it came up with some suggestions for what needed to be done, mostly all just to control erosion. I think Doug laid them out pretty good in his plan. Other than a 3-foot walk, 3-foot wall behind the new platform. And both left and right, a lot of mulch.
So you're asking for a new setback of 31.5 feet, is that correct?
I believe that that's what it is that we're looking at. Was that what the
This,
overall amount was that
Yeah.
we came up with? Okay. Yeah.
anybody want to make a motion, or?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we're wondering about is, first of all, if we can get the setback reduction so that we can keep the landing in the position that it's in now, is what we're asking first of all. And then secondarily would be, what are your recommendations, which I know a number of them now, based on our conversation we had up at the cottage, pending, you know, what your decision is on the setback reduction.
Well, the one stipulation that we looked at was in order to keep it and in order to maintain the stability and stop any erosion, that there should be some type of a retaining wall built on the face of the landing, which Bud said that you had that planned anyway.
Yep.
And to clean up the material that was taken out of the location of the new landing and stabilize all of that with a stabilization material of some kind. And in doing those things, I think that this is still further away from the road than most of the decks are up there, so.
So, would you like to make a motion?
I would make that a motion that that the owner build a retaining wall on the road side of the new landing, approximately 3 feet taller than the landing itself, so that he can stabilize that area. He's going to lose a tree or two if he doesn't. If there's any more erosion around one of those trees especially, it's going to fall on the camp. So it would be to his better safety-wise and money-wise, and clean up the material that was taken from under the new landing and stabilize that area. Otherwise than that, those, and over in front of the old outhouse, there was a little bit of disturbance too that should be taken care of.
Okay.
Otherwise than that, I didn't see anything else. Did you guys?
Well, I'd like to add to that motion, David, that that wall be 3 feet above the walk and 1 foot below the top of the walk, so that
Okay,
it's
yeah.
secured.
That would keep it from washing under the
Underneath
camp.
it.
And the wall needs to be it needs to be a minimum of 32 feet long,
32,
Is-
yes.
yeah,
Is
6
the
feet
wall
beyond the
outside
deck
of the
itself.
shoreline zone?
The wall is 82.5 feet to the face of it from the high water mark.
So he's going to need a permit to build
Well,
that wall?
No, it's more than back further enough.
It's more than 100 feet from the water?
DEP, we say 100 feet, DEP says 75. But if he needs a permit, that's,
I don't know. Well, Patty can
Yeah,
tell
that's
him
up
whether
to-
he needs a
Yeah.
permit. That's
He
the-
needs, there's
that's
definitely
her.
got to be something there done to take care of the erosion, because if he doesn't, he's going to have the trees, and he's going to have that bank down behind the camp. And this, I'd like to make this map that I drawn, I'd like to have a cleaned up copy of it, put in the file on David's motion, because it shows on the, standing at the high water mark, looking at the cottage, it shows the removal of the soil on the left-hand side, and it shows where the wall's gonna be built, and the areas that need erosion control. And that's gotta be something that's an erosion control, like a bark mulch, because on the right-hand side of the camp, looking at it from the lake, there is some erosion down there already. There's erosion control fence, but once that's gone, there's nothing to stop the erosion. So, having said that, I'll second David's motion with this plan included in it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Are you clear on the motion? Okay?
This will be done under section 208.
Yep, mhm.
Can I ask a couple of questions
Sure.
about that? On the erosion control, is there a specific material that you're requesting, not only for what we were discussing out there about that, because I was mentioning about seed and you were mentioning about the bark mulch, but as far as the wall goes itself, are you telling, do I have to build it out of cinder block, or can we slope it up and make it out of stone? Does it have to be adhered with cement? Is there a specific thing that you're telling me here? Because originally I was considering that we might be able to build it up out of stone and then slope it towards the land that's coming down. But are you saying that it has to be cinder block and it has to be straight up?
Well, with that, you have a pump tank and a septic tank that's right there that needs to be covered. And right now, I don't see how you're going to do that without building a vertical wall.
Probably have to be vertical, yeah.
And,
Based on our discussion.
a round rock wall, even modded together, doesn't stand up for a long period of time with any pressure behind it. So, some kind of a interlocking,
Step wall.
solid block wall.
Solid block wall is what we're being told. What's that?
Yeah, but the type that has
Yep,
the
the
lock on the back would be best, but
Okay.
They'll-
I didn't want to go ahead and do something and then have it looked at later on and say that's not acceptable.
No, it should be some type of a pre-made wall that goes up there,
Okay.
because it's only for your own benefit, because the dirt's gonna wash underneath it if you don't go down below the
Okay.
bottom of the landing.
Yeah,
And if you don't come up 3 feet, you're not gonna get up high enough to protect the roots of them trees that are already exposed to the weather.
we'll do that. Okay.
And then on the left-hand side, as you're facing it from the water, that material is over there, whatever you do with it, you can put seed down there eventually, but you need to put an erosion control mulch. Buddy knows what you should use. It's an,
Stump stuff is good.
yeah,
Yeah,
erosion control product in a wood, erosion control wood mulch
okay.
is what you need, several inches thick to make sure that you don't get any erosion down into the lake.
Okay. And you know what that stuff is? Yep. Okay.
Are you talking 22 feet long or 32 feet?
32.
32.
So we're going 10 feet out past,
You gotta get over to the front of the outhouse.
okay, yeah, okay.
And then slope it from there.
And taper it in.
And taper it
You
down.
know, it's 20 feet wide on the camp, bud,
Yeah.
and then I'm saying you gotta go another 12 feet to get up
Okay.
past the outhouse, okay?
I got you.
You know,
Yep.
Okay? So-
Okay, just a couple more questions. As far as I understand, then the landing has been okayed. Did it infringe upon our 30% build out?
That would be something that Patty
Patty
would
would do.
Okay.
take care of.
I don't think it did. I don't think it would, but I just
She
wanted
has
to.
not calculated it yet, but she will, she's the
Okay.
one that does those calculations.
Okay. And then I need to speak to her also about the occupancy of your rent.
Yes.
As far as being able to rent the place, that has nothing to do with you guys. Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Do you have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? I guess I need to vote. Opposed, none. Okay,
I'd like to thank you all for your time. Thank you.
thank you. Number 2 is a final plan for Lakeview Estates. I'm gonna come up and see if we can get this done. I think we spent a lot of time on this. The main concerns were the road. I'm sure the road experts can have an opinion on this. Are you satisfied?
I'm waiting if Roger wants to make any
Oh,
comments.
yeah,
Okay,
wow.
I can speak now.
Sure, I'm sorry.
I'm just coming before you tonight to make a request for the final acceptance of this proposed plan of Lakeview Estates. As a result of the site walk by 4 members of the planning board present here tonight, I have made revisions to the last plan that was submitted, and I guess at this point, if after reviewing the submission of this final plan, hopefully it's acceptable and meets the requests and requirements that the planning board placed upon me to receive final approval.
Anybody have any comments or care to make a motion or?
No, he's added everything we talked about out there.
Was you going to request a waiver that this doesn't have to meet town standards and to remain a private road?
You want me to put that as a request? After meeting with the 4 members here tonight, after meeting on the sidewalk, I was made aware that, and informed that if I so choose to keep Gdow Way a private road in perpetuity, providing that I will maintain it, I will not be required to bring it up to town standards. So this plan has been revised to meet the, I don't know if you want to call it, non-standard town road. And I guess the only requirement was that I do maintain it. And I haven't submitted a formal letter to that fact, but I guess I'm just going to, at this point, submit it as a verbal request. And if I need a formal letter, then I can also draft one of those up and have it placed in my file.
I remember along the way there was some discussion about keeping this road for your 3 lots only.
Yes.
And is it, I can't read
There's-
that.
If you want to look in the notes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, any access on Gdow Way shall be limited to 3 lots, and any additional access on Gdow
Yep.
Way must be reviewed by the town of Waterboro Planning Board, and also, I think the 3 owners of this property who are forming the road association would have to be in agreement also. But first, I know I would have to get approval from the planning board.
Who will own the road? Will,
Who owns the road?
yeah,
The road is
Are
owned
you
by
gonna-
the 3
Three
owners
people?
of lots 1, 2, and 3.
okay.
And they share expenses in the plowing, maintenance, and
There is an agreement, a written
yes.
agreement on
Yeah,
that?
that was
Okay.
submitted,
Yeah.
I think 2 months ago. And something I didn't mention earlier is that the checklist that was of items to be addressed, I think it was 2 months ago, those items have all been addressed and submitted.
Do we? Yeah? No, that's
right
not-
there,
Right up here,
in front of Frank.
right in front of you, Frank.
But maybe we should just look, you said that, look at the checklist. Do we have that?
I think, I don't have my checklist with me, but you'll find the road maintenance agreement.
Okay. Oh, I have my glasses.
I think there's a letter from the attorney also.
What is this? Copies?
Want me to pass this down to
I
Frank?
guess so. That's what
Well,
these are
this is-
just, are these copies of this? Okay, that's what it appears to be.
They use all copies.
Judy, do
Yes.
you have an extra copy I could
Sure.
use for a second?
We're going to have to put off the performance bond issue until we know what we're doing,
not a
don't we?
public way.
Yeah. Okay, so and that doesn't, none of that applies?
Doesn't apply,
Okay.
right?
It's not-
Because it's not a public
Yeah.
way.
It's not a public way, and there's no improvements required by the
Yeah.
town, so there's no
True.
bond
No,
here.
not
I
necessary.
would like to make a comment here that the only waiver on this is on the grade. That's the portion of the waiver that he's asking for. As the board that was present at that site saw that, and he's turned the end of the road, so it's now on the high point of the hill, and put in the required drainage infiltration areas that the board requested. So the grade is the only reason.
On the first part of the road, right?
Well, actually, it's a private road. It only services 3 lots.
that doesn't... So number 4. That's... Has that been addressed?
Well, he's laid it out on his plan, but the
Okay.
bearings on Logan Circle, nobody knows.
Yeah,
Nobody
who
knows.
would know?
He's given us, he's donated 25 feet of his
yes,
land. And he has marked off the 25 feet of land that he has donated to the town. So or to the right-of-way, to whoever's going to use it. And therefore, the arc of the circle is undetermined by Logan Circle because there are no meets and bounds.
According to Steve, there may be, just in that little frontage on Logan Circle, there may be more than a dozen points, and it was almost useless to plot 20 feet east, northeast, then 10 feet, then 6 feet, then 35 feet.
But he plotted it out on the...
Yes, he did.
Where
Yes.
the piece of land that you left not attached to the subdivision. That's the only way we can describe it. It's not attached because you're not giving it. And because of that 25 feet, that brings his road down to a total of 600 feet.
Because of that 25.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, 625, if you add it together, it was 625, and taking off the 25 feet, it brings it down to 600 feet long.
The next one is number 9. You have addresses.
I'm sorry?
You have house numbers.
Yes.
You've done
As-
that. Okay.
Right now, lot number 2 that my son lives on, he's 105 Logan Circle, but as soon as this subdivision is approved, then he will no longer be, his address will no longer be Logan Circle.
Oh, no.
It'll
That's
be
right.
G. Dow Way, and at that point, lots 1, 2, and 3 will have new address, and their mailboxes as indicated in one of these notes. Postal delivery will occur at the easterly intersection of Logan Circle and Weber Road in individual mailboxes.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to have to change his address. Oh, what a pain. The next one is number 4. You've already given 25 feet. Is there... Is that not
What's
enough? Number
That's all
4?
covered by that, yeah.
Yeah. It says, "The board may require the developer to provide space for future municipal use." I would think the 25 feet is sufficient. I don't think we need any ballparks or anything up there. I don't know.
We're not on
Am
the
I
same
on the...
page,
oh,
Judy.
okay. Am I wrong?
This is page 4.
Yeah, you gotta be on this
Oh,
page.
okay. All right. So,
Okay.
all right. So it's just these?
Yeah, we got
Oh,
all
okay.
these.
So we're all set.
We've been down through these
Yes,
already and
we
checked
have.
everything,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
We've gone through the whole list
yeah.
and checked everything that was,
We've done the rest. This is just final plan. It's just from here to here, yeah.
okay?
So it looks like we're all set. Except, well, he doesn't need a performance bond. It's going to be private.
I move we accept this final plan upon accepting a written letter from Mr. Lozier on his last waiver. Well, first off, I'll make a move that we approve the waiver. Although I'm not sure that we need one because it's not a town road.
Right?
Yeah.
So why do we need a waiver? We need a letter from him saying he's going to.
What's that?
We do need a letter. He's going to give us a letter saying it's going to be.
Needs to be,
It will remain a public road maintained by the property owners.
Right.
no, it needs to be noted on the plan.
Okay.
Yes.
It's going to stay a private road,
Yes.
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's gonna be a private road with a road association. That needs to be noted on the recorded plan. You've already got a road agreement, so that should be noted on the plan.
One more note. yeah.
You didn't bring the Mylar with you tonight, did you?
No,
No.
no, Steve
And
can
I
be
think
present.
it says G Dow Lane on there. It's supposed to be,
Drive.
G Dow Drive.
I think, I don't remember what was approved, but I don't think it's Drive,
Way.
isn't it Way?
It's supposed to be way,
I think, yeah. And Steve and I talked about that, and he said he hadn't done the Mylar yet, so we could make that change, but that,
So if we don't need a waiver, if we need just a, we do need a note on the plan saying that it's a private road maintained by a road association to remain a private road. That I
Is there
recommend.
a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion? No? Okay, do you want to call for a vote? All in favor? Opposed?
thank you. So I'll contact Steve, have him prepare the Mylar with the G-Dow Drive to G-Dow Way and a
And a
notation
note for the-
stating that the
Private.
G-Dow Way will not be a town road and to remain a private road maintained by the property owners of that road.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay?
And will I have to
You'll
come
have
to
to
the
come
next
back into
meeting?
another meeting
Yeah.
just to get it signed.
usually they just give it to me, and
Yeah.
as long as
Yeah.
everything's approved, he can just leave the plan with me, and we'll sign it after the next meeting.
You don't have to.
You don't have to come
You
back.
just gotta bring,
Yeah.
you gotta bring it in.
Give it to
Although you're
Jan.
pretty used to coming in now, so
Yeah, if you
you.
want to come.
Well, I want to thank you for your time and efforts that you've all put into this little project. I'm glad it's not a 30-lot subdivision.
All those bug bites, huh?
Well, thank you very much.
Back before I take it home later.
Frank, would you put this back, please?
Whoops. I have some minutes.
The originals are in church folder.
Let's see. Frank, David, Judy, Doug. So these are the minutes of March 10th.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Okay. Motion is made that the minutes be accepted as read. Is there a second to that?
Second it.
Well, I'd ask for one correction. You've got a ask is spelled wrong on the second page, but it's okay. ASK, the second page. That's other than that.
Oh, yeah. First line, Doug Fogel.
Oh, ask.
Yep.
There must be a message in this. Sorry.
All those in favor? Opposed? None.
Think that's your word?
Report of officers, there is, I take nothing. Old business, we have communication. Tom, would you like to?
Did you sign the original letter?
We got it
Yeah,
right here.
we got
we're
it
gonna
right
sign.
here, we're working on that. It's coming.
I'll write it down.
Madam Chairman, do you want me to use the new table?
Go for it.
Go for it.
You want to write it out? Okay,
You didn't sign
I
it.
didn't sign.
You
It's been
put
a
the date, but
long
you didn't
day.
sign it.
Board members, I've got 3 things for you tonight. In addition to the performance bonding, two sort of announcements so that you'll be in the full loop. One is, I'm not sure if you've heard or not, but the annual meeting of the Regional Planning Commission is June 9th. The guest speaker is going to be speaking about village planning. And if you're interested, it starts up around 5:30. There'll be a meal, and there'll be a guest speaker, and there'll be a couple pretty good fiddlers there. So if any of those 3 things interest you, in addition to the village planning, just let Dan, our town administrator, know, or myself, or Tina, and we can make the arrangements for your attendance.
Put it on top of that.
Don't go back in Kurt's one.
Oh, I don't know. Do you want this back in Kurt's or? Okay.
What was the date on that?
It's, David, it's June 9th. It starts up about 5:30. I believe the meal starts at 6:30. And I'm not sure if the speaker is going to be on board. The speaker is a woman by the name of Roseanne Eflin, who's from the Maine Downtown Association based in Augusta. And she's going to speak about some of the success stories in towns that have created villages. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. The other thing before I get to performance bonding is our Board of Selectmen have created a comprehensive plan committee. There were 8 people that signed up for it, and all 8 of those people were appointed by the Board of Selectmen. The first meeting of the so-called 2020 Master Plan Committee was held last night. All 8 people showed up, and they seemed pretty enthusiastic. One of the things that they brought up was that they very much want to be in close contact, obviously, with our planning board. And so once they get organized, you can either use me as your messenger if you feel you'd like to meet with them, or I know they're going to start some visioning sessions probably within 100 days. You'll certainly be invited to that, to participate in that process. But it looks to be a pretty enthusiastic group. I've forewarned them that it's a long, laborious process, and it's going to take a lot of time to do. They're going to spend the next month before their next meeting, which is July 6th. We'll be meeting again. They're going to spend most of the time reviewing your old plan, the 2003 amended plan, and then the larger work that was done by Sebago Technics for the town and the planning board back in 1990. So they're up and running, and they'll be looking for your guidance and any suggestions, but the planning board came up several times last night in the discussion of how important it is to be interfacing with you.
Is there going to be a member of the planning board on the Charter Commission? On the Comprehensive Plan Commission?
If any board member so wishes,
I think Steve Bell's on there, isn't
oh, that's right, Steve is on it.
Steve Dennis, right?
Yeah, Steve's on it. So he could be your liaison to report back if you wish. Would you like me to read who's on there, just because I'm sure you know all these people? As Tina mentioned, Steve evolved from Raven Hill. He's also on the planning board. Jack Seary, Tad Abbott, Sandy Bennett, Roger McCumber, Bob Powers, Kent Whidden, which I think some of you probably recall. I think his dad was once a planning board member.
Oh,
Doug,
Joe's son?
Pardon?
Joe's son?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I'm not sure, when was he on the board?
Isn't that his name?
10 years ago or so?
he? No.
No.
Been here since I've been here.
What's that?
Everett was here while I was
Everett?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Everett Whitten.
Okay. Well, so it's Kent's his
Yeah,
son. And lastly, Diane Holden. And I can make a list of all these people in case, you want to have any of them come in or have them come in as a group. I suspect the first couple of months they're going to spend getting organized, determining what their plan of attack is. There's a lot of work to be done. What's that date? I'm sorry.
Nothing.
So any feedback from board members as to anything you want me to report back to this group in their startup stages?
Who's the chairman of this board?
They've asked me to ex officio facilitate the group. In that I'll probably be the one who will be attending every single meeting. What generally happens with most committee meetings is sometimes not everybody can always make the meetings. We've tried to encourage that everybody will be in attendance, particularly in the organizational part, which will take the summer months. So I'll be facilitating the group throughout the whole process, as well as facilitating the visioning sessions. And I've offered them a significant commitment because in the 40 years of writing master plans, this will be my last one. And so I plan to put every bit of energy I have into it and encourage them to work to create something that's very creative, as well as something that's going to serve us well for the next growth cycle that we're undoubtedly going to see in the next couple of years. Any questions? No? Any suggestions? No? Okay. I'm open to your suggestions if you have any particular ones. The last thing is we had left the last meeting talking about performance bonding and the need to do two things. First of all, here's the section in the ordinance, and it's a two-pronged approach. The approach is first is we're going to have to clean up section 12.04 because it doesn't work. My suggestion to the board is to completely overhaul it, not to try to even patch this. I'm not sure it's patchable. It doesn't function, in my opinion, in these times. It has a lot of things that are more of a detriment to the town than helpful to you as a board. So let me start with that part first. And the other prong is going to be, how do we do it so that it takes some of the burden off the planning board shoulders, and at the same time it works well for the town administration, and it guarantees to the community that infrastructure improvements will in fact get done. So let's tackle this first part, the 12.04 that you have before you. I'll point out some of the deficiencies in it, and then I think we'll rapidly discover that it's better just to write it fresh, with fresh, clear language. The first thing, we need to have clarity, as Doug pointed out earlier, that this is for public roads that fall under public specifications that are in your subdivision ordinance. We need to build some clarity into that. Secondly, we need to clarify, it's not the estimated cost of the project, it's the estimated cost of the infrastructure improvements. Because there are certain components of a project that aren't even mentioned in your subdivision regulations that cost money. But what the concern of the town is purely infrastructure improvements per your specifications for road building, drainage systems, and all other improvements that are required. The other deficiency in this is that it says a performance bond equal to 25% of the estimated cost. My suggestion to the board, and the board has the final say on all of this, but my suggestion is to make it 100%. There is no value to say 125% or 110% because people are just going to, they're going to play with the numbers, they're going to adjust them downward so that they can make up for the extra 125%. Put it as it is, have it estimated, and do it at 100%. That 100% is what would then be bonded. In this, we need to talk about what the bonding structures are, or what the surety arrangements are. At the last meeting, there were several that came out on the table. The typical letter of credit, a savings passbook and or cash, and then lastly, collateral. And as Doug pointed out, collateral is valuable, particularly if it's land. And one of the key things is going to be the board needs to think about, do you want the collateral to be the assessed value or an appraised value? Because they don't always agree. And whatever the board says, if you want to work with assessed value, that makes life faster and easier for both the board and the applicant. If you want appraised value, it gives you a little bit more depth. And it gives you accuracy to the date of the appraisal, which would be the most current value on the property. I think having the option of collateral is an excellent one. I'm glad the board brought it up. We just need to have clarity so that some people aren't providing us with appraised value and other people are giving us assessed value. One of the complicating factors of this is that it's so worded that a lot of this responsibility falls on the CEO, on Patty's shoulders, okay? Now, again, this is a board decision, but when it gets into complicated engineering of projects, drainage systems, road building, specifications, drainage systems, subsurface systems, I have not talked with Patty about this, but it puts a lot of, I think, responsibility on her shoulders in something that deals almost purely with engineering standards. It may be beneficial to hear directly from Patty if she still wants to take on that responsibility. The way that most communities handle this is that they work either with their in-house engineer or the consulting engineer. And the cost of the engineering, the review of the specifications, would help determine. In other words, the applicant comes in with his civil and says, board members, this is going to cost $120,000. The consulting engineer reviews that to make sure that it's accurate. Because if it's going to be a letter of credit or a surety, you want to make sure you're working with an accurate number. My suggestion to the board is that that responsibility fall on the applicant. And basically, let's, for purposes of discussion, say that we'd have, if I may, Sebago Technics review and say, okay, that number is right on, it's low or it's too high. Then, at the completion of the project, to assure you that the improvements have been done, the way that this currently is written, that responsibility falls on Patty's shoulders. I think we need to hear from Patty if she wants that responsibility as it's currently in the ordinance, then that's the way you should write it. I just want to pass on to what most communities do, is they don't want that burden to fall on a staff person's shoulders unless that staff person is a PE, a professional engineer. Because you're looking sometimes at very, very complicated code structures. So that's something that you want to give some thought to. And then, in the last sentence here, it says that, the performance bond will end upon issuance of the code enforcement officer's occupancy permit, indicating that the work has been completed satisfactorily. Again, this is where you want to have the civil come in, or wherever the board wishes to appoint, to go out and take a look at the road and make sure it's built per the specifications that you set forth. It does no good to have specifications if they're not built and designed to the way that the town has approved the plan. So those are the suggestions, and based on those suggestions, I'd say scrap this and let's just rewrite it. But before we rewrite it, whatever the board's wishes are, and if you wish, you can delegate it to me, and I'll rewrite something to your wishes that you think will work well for the town of Waterboro.
Thought we did this once. It was not acceptable by the selectmen, what we came up with.
Tina, do you happen to have a copy of the subdivision regulations there handy?
So those are some of the issues that I see in the ordinance portion of it. And then the other point is purely mechanical. Okay, so here's what I suggest to the board on the mechanical part. For some reason, it's been difficult for the town to either maintain or get performance bonds through the process. Did you want me to go into that part on the process, or would you like me to wait on that part?
I was just looking because we'll give these back to you, Tina, so that the town doesn't lose their $5.
That's good. It's a loaner.
As I see it, we're talking two completely different situations here, Tom. This is what's in the zoning ordinance, and this is required for people that need a bond to do a project that requires a building permit. Starts right off with building permit. Okay, that's what section 12, Article 12, section 1 through 4 is all about, is fines and violations and enforcement. And in that part, I don't think that we can take that out of there, okay? Again, the performance bond part of it, and to be truthful with you, that part of it is something that is, as I read this section, more attributed to buildings than it is to subdivision improvement, which is our primary, and capital improvements that are going to take place in town that need to be bonded, okay? Whoever ends up holding the bonds would hold the bonds, but as I see this, if somebody comes in like that permit that we just gave out here a few minutes ago, we could have required him to have a performance bond to do the work. And I think that's what's covered here, and that ought to be covered. The code enforcement officer ought to be involved in that part of it. As far as bonds that you're talking about for capital improvements, I agree with you 100%. The code enforcement officer should not be involved in it at all. you gotta get actually, you should get a bid package. The project is going out to bid, and an estimated cost by the engineer as to what this is gonna cost to have done. And that's where you work off of, okay? The cost of the improvements. In the a capital improvement going on in town, where somebody's coming into town and doing work, and we're gonna require a bond for the capital improvements, then the bond ought to be equal to the capital. And somewheres in this, there's gotta be a bid bond. If we're gonna take in capital improvements, we need to write a bid bond into that, because people bid, and then all of a sudden they find out, oh, I left out a major portion of this. I didn't see that in the bid, I forgot it, my estimator made a mistake. So they got no bid bond, they just walk away from it. That's the capital part that the town's gonna get involved in, like building a building, or building a sidewalk, or building a piece of road that goes out to bid. Then, when they bid, they have to put in what's called a bid bond. And it could be 5% of the cost of the job. So if it's $1 million job, you've got a $50,000 bond that you produce with the bid. Then if you attempt to walk away from the bid, the town gets to keep your $50,000 if you make a mistake. And believe me, it's happened. A job bid a year ago, and it was $1 million job with a 10% bond, and something was left out. It was $75,000. The guy said, I might as well eat the $75,000 and do the job as to give up $100,000 and not do the job. So, you know, he did the job, and there was never any question that he wouldn't do it. But that happens, you know, sometimes. So, you know, you're right, but I don't think that in what you're saying here that this is not what we want, but it's a different, I think we're talking two different bonding things here. This is kind of a minor thing at 25%. If somebody's got to put up a walkway to the house or put an addition on the house, the only reason you'd require a performance bond is you doubted they were going to do it. So you put up a 25% performance bond on the estimate of what's going to be done, okay? And the chances are that rather than lose their money or their bond, because if it's somebody's going to do a $10,000 improvement, you want a $2,500 bond, they're going to put up $2,500 in cash. So chances are they're going to do the work, because the town's going to keep their $2,500, and then they're going to take them to court, and they either got to do the work or, you know, so I think we're talking two completely different things, not to get carried away, but.
May I just jump in at this point? What Doug says is accurate, but what I'm suggesting here is we be sure that we merge performance bond, make it clear for performance bonds, both for subdivision and zoning. And I think as you begin to overhaul the subdivision ordinance and the zoning ordinance, because they both make references to performance bonds, we need to be very clear as to what's required. So we have two ways to handle that. One is the legal part, which you're looking at now in your ordinances. That's the legal component. The other component is the mechanical component, which has been lacking in the past because no one was delegated the accountability to manage how those performance monies were held. So if I may, I'm going to jump in on that mechanical part. First, I'm going to volunteer to do it because it's not very complicated. It won't take a huge amount of my time, but I like doing the logistical things to make sure that we never lose sight of a performance bond that might be expiring. So here's how we do it. I'll break it into two pieces. I'd set up a log system every time the planning board approves something with a performance bond. It would have a date attached to it. Typically, it's a year, and you don't want to go too far out because the numbers change over time. The value changes over time. If the board, your board and the Board of Selectmen so wished, I would manage that log and report back to you, as well as the road commissioner, as well as the CEO, as well as the road review committee, so that everybody is in the loop as to an expiring bond. In some cases, on your larger subdivisions that come in, a one-year bond gets extended. So I would also take on the responsibility of alerting you however soon you want to be alerted. Typically, it's 30 or 60 days. I would say 60 to give yourself a little buffer. In case you don't have a quorum at one meeting, we can kick it to the next meeting. I would alert you, say 10 months into a 12-month bond, that the work has been declared to be done by the applicant, at which time I would suggest that you have a consulting engineer go out and inspect it and say it's done per the plan. Then a report back, and if it's not complete and there is a deficiency, the applicant would have to ask you to extend the bond for 6 months or a year or however long it's going to take to complete it. At the completion of the project, a report, I would come back to you and say, it's been completed, in this account there's $10,000 left over. The applicant would come back, ask you for a release of that money, depending on the type of surety that it is. Again, it could be a passbook, it could be collateral, and then it's the board's decision whether or not to release or not. I think the way you ground the release of the performance bond is quite simple. You have an engineering report saying the job is done, it's complete, it meets all the requirements of the ordinance, and the board can go to bed at night and sleep well and know it's done properly. It's not very complicated to do this, and it's basically just keeping a good log and reporting back to the board that set the bond, the planning board. And so whatever requirements you set for report backs, I would take care of, or whoever you wish to delegate it to. It's not complicated. It's just that it needs a process. I'm not sure where the selectmen fit in the process. And that's something that, we have to iron out with the Board of Selectmen. But it starts and finishes with your board,
The Board of Selectmen has got to actually approve the bond,
the formal.
the formal approval of it. Whatever type of surety you're putting up, they got to approve it. I think that as far as the planning board goes, once we sign a plan, we're basically done with it. And then it's whoever handles the bond after that. If you delegated with the duty of keeping the record on the bond, I believe we should have an ordinance that requires the code enforcement officer to be notified by you 30 days prior to the lapse of a bond. Upon the bond lapse, the code enforcement officer shall be required to no longer issue any building permits or any occupancy permits. Because, if the bond has lapsed, then there's no guarantee that the remainder of the work is going to be completed. And the only way that you're going to make sure that work is completed is the way we did when we ran into the problem with Pace Landing, was we stopped them from getting building permits. And when the bank come back to us and said, we want to sell these lots, we said, nobody's getting a building permit until the road is built to the standards it was approved by the planning board. And the selectmen held to that, and the bank finished the project and then sold the lots, or actually sold the project out. And the town was insured. But had that didn't happen on some other subdivisions in town in the past. So the key to this is an ordinance that the code enforcement officer has, in my opinion, should have nothing to do with the bonds. That's my own opinion, okay? That should be somebody else. I think the code officer got all he needs to do. But when the bond expires, then it's a violation of the subdivision plan. Therefore, it now is a violation of a code which the code enforcement officer steps in upon proper notification by the duly authorized person and takes the appropriate steps, issues a stop work order, does not issue any more building permits, and does not issue any more occupancy permits. That's our only leverage that we have to ensure that these projects get completed and are paid for by the proper people. And don't leave the homeowners who, you get a subdivision that's half done, and you got 20 lots, you got 5 or 10 of them with houses on them, and a dirt road that's supposed to be paved, and then the developer no longer gets a bond. The only recourse that the people in there have is they can sue the developer, but if he's lost it to the bank, then they're going to get nothing. So it becomes the town's duty to make sure that they are protected. And we protect them by not allowing any more land to be sold so that there is still assets and equity there to pay to complete the project.
Doug, if we follow that system and, let's say Patty is immediately notified of the lapse, do you and other board members feel that there are other parties that should be alerted at the same time as Patty's alerted? Not necessarily to have to come back to your board, but, for example, would the board want to have a copy of that communication so you know what's going on?
It should be a communication sent out to the planning board, but the Board of Selectmen should be notified. They should be notified immediately, and the code enforcement officer, because nobody else has any authority. Those are and everything else comes as a communication.
I've noticed similar incidents have happened over the last couple of years, and let's say Fred wasn't available, and we'd be getting a call, and they say, I need to speak with the road commissioner about this. Do you think the road commissioner and the road review committee should also be in that loop so that everybody's on the same page? Realizing the authority goes up to the Board of Selectmen, but it's important, I think, for a road commissioner and the road review committee to know.
I think the road commissioner maybe should be notified.
Okay.
And like I say, a communication should go out to the planning board and to the road review committee, but actually having an immediate notification I don't believe is necessary, because neither the planning board nor the road review committee has any authority to them, as you know.
That's true.
So, you're gonna tell them 30 days ahead of time. You're gonna notify Patty and the Board of Selectmen, or we shouldn't say Patty, you're gonna notify the code office that this bond is about to expire. And if it isn't renewed on July 1 of this year, then, this ordinance put in by the Board of Selectmen says that that is nullable. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
So aren't we actually looking at two different things? I mean, in one way, we're talking about process and procedures that are not in place now, so people don't catch mistakes, catch when bonds expire. I mean, that's one animal. I mean, David brought up, we've passed this stuff to the selectmen before, when we've asked for performance bonds, and they've done nothing. So that's another issue, or another part of this stuff. It seems like we've got a couple of piles here that we're not the only ones that are ever going to ask for bonds, are we?
No, this is nothing to do with us, really, in my opinion.
For the
okay?
whole,
This is for the entire town. That's why
Yes,
it's gotta be,
yes.
that's why it's gotta be something, and the Board of Selectmen, well, I can come up with 2 or 3 different subdivisions that have had errors and omissions over the years, and the Board of Selectmen change, the secretary to the Board of Selectmen changes, and, you know, there's not a procedure for this to follow. So this procedure needs to have a leader, okay? And if Tom's gonna be the leader, or we won't even say Tom, if we say the town planner, you know, because we should put something together that goes on for a period of time, you know? So we'll say the town planner, or whoever the selectmen designate to do it, okay, is the one. All we can do is present them with what needs to be done. And then it's up to them to make the proper appointments. But we have one thing that we got to discuss is what we're willing to accept for bonds. Okay?
some of the options
The
that
option.
we can accept.
Well, we should have, I've got 5 options written down here.
And when Tom was going through some of them, I wondered when we started hitting things like assess or appraise, those different options, that why would you ever do away with one of them?
Because I don't know that we,
Why would you ever limit yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, there's going to be times when we may want to have those options. At least we should know what the options are.
well, I don't think that, that we can take book value that the town has on a piece of property and say, okay, we're going to accept that, what the town has for recorded value, and use that as bonding value, okay? We should have a current, up-to-date, certified appraisal. Done by a
And I
licensed
guess
appraiser.
what I'm saying is that currently, that sounds rational. What I'm saying is, why would we ever limit ourselves? We should, whatever we have for process and procedures, should leave it open so that this is what we normally do. However, you might want to look at this. I mean, I can't see ever cutting it off.
I don't think
You know
we're
what I'm
cutting
saying?
it off. I think we're setting a higher standard. We would say that if you want to use a piece of real estate, you have to have an appraised value on that.
At the
That's the
current
standard,
time.
at the
Right,
current time.
Okay.
Okay? We got property assessed in this town right
Yeah,
now
it's-
for $500,000 that may be down here. So if somebody's going to put that up as a bond, we want to make sure that we don't get a bond that's greater than this value down here. Not what we're doing here on a random value that was done 2 years or 5 years or 8 years ago, okay? Or one that's been increased or decreased by a percentage as the time went on.
Yep.
So, you know, we set a standard, that's the way I look at it. We're going to set a standard, and that standard is going to be an appraised value by a licensed appraiser,
Okay.
not a real estate broker,
Yep.
by a licensed appraiser.
Are we the ones that would put the acceptable, my mind is not with me tonight.
Well,
Or should the selectmen be the ones to say what would be acceptable to them? It seems
when I went to
that
the
we have a
board-
problem here.
When I went in front of the Board of Selectmen, you know, I think what I got when I walked out of that meeting is the planning board and Tom would put together a package
Okay.
and bring it to the Board of Selectmen, at which point they would review it, send it to legal counsel, and then they would approve. They might make changes, but we're going to put together a basic plan for bonding criteria
Okay.
For the town.
for the town.
For the town,
For all segments of it. And this part that Tom was referring to first might want to be a segment, but he's right, we ought to take, well, we don't want to take out Article 12, we might want to take out Article 12, paragraph 12.04, and just rewrite that to say that that only has to do with things requiring a building permit.
Sure, okay.
Okay.
We agree, yep.
And then at 25% would be a reasonable figure for a building permit violation, okay? And, I don't know how many times I've ever used that, but that would be, if you get a serious case of somebody before the zoning board of appeals that comes in here for conditional use, you could require a 25% bond until the project was done and completed.
It may be beneficial to make sure we keep Patty in the loop, and we can do it either by myself and Tina talking with her, or invite her to a meeting, because this is, I think, a really important piece to Patty. And you've got a certain number of subdivisions already on the book or part-way approved, at preliminary stage or approaching preliminary. And from what I can see, you're well over 100, nearing a couple hundred units that potentially will be built out in the next 10 years, not to speak of the new subdivisions coming in. And some of them are really quite complicated with infrastructure. So I think the key thing to answer Judy's question, how do you arrive at that number and make sure that infrastructure, the road, building, the drainage, all that, the culvert sizing, et cetera, is done right. And you have the right figure. That right figure, I believe, should come from a consulting engineer that gives you the checks and balances. That'll give you the assurity, and it should give the Board of Selectmen the assurity that you're working with a number that's accurate today. That's the beauty of keeping a short-term performance bond of a year. Things change fast,
Next year it could be twice as much.
It could. I mean, if you look at the price of where things like copper and steel and virtually everything, I think the only thing that's still a bargain is earth products, except for mulch. But, earth products are still a bargain, and those prices are going to go up too. So as those prices change, we want to make sure that we adjust it, and so we have that opportunity. The key is making sure everybody's synchronized and that you have someone that can keep track of it all. Because when we start having a half a dozen or a dozen performance bonds out there, and a bank goes south or a developer goes south, who gets stuck with it? The town and the potential lot owners. So my advice is let's be very precautious about it, and this is a perfect time to do it. Before the new growth cycle starts.
When your developer comes before you with a need for a performance bond, their engineer should put together a detailed estimate of cost, and that should be done based on their bid package for the job. Correct, David?
Yes. Every job,
Every one
of
of them.
any size, has that done.
They'll have a bid package, and they should attach a figure to every aspect of that bid package and a total at the end. That's why many municipalities require a bond of 125% of the cost of the job. I think ours should say up to 125% of a job, because then you have some latitude. If you're going to do if you're going to do it, and they also should be able to issue a bond based on the actual contract price. If they put a job out to bid and it's awarded, then the bond could be equal to the contract price. So when you write the specifications up for it, that's your criteria. You're either going to get a estimate of the bond based on the actual engineer's bid specs and quotations, or it should be based on the contract price, and these should be subject to third-party review. Correct, Tom?
Yes.
If you're gonna send a big job out to third-party review, why wouldn't you have them review the cost also?
That's right.
Explain something to me. You have a road, and you have an estimate of how much it's going to cost. So you have a bond, but the bond expires. And if the work's not done before the bond expires, then you're still up the creek, right?
You are, but in most cases, by alerting the applicant, the bank, the town officials, and all parties that are responsible, normally, in normal conditions, they re-up, re-extend that bond. So that's the whole key. You don't want to let it lapse, because who gets hurt the most is the town and the lot owner. So that's the beauty of having bonds that are monitored by someone that can report back to the people. You know, I'm big on communication. I think that, you know, if as Doug had pointed out, there's a certain number of people that need to be notified. Patty needs to be notified. The code enforcement officer is notified first. At the same time, the board gets a written communication. The applicant does, and also whoever is holding the money. You know, I can work the process internally. The person who will actually be holding the money will be the town treasurer. If there's some form of a passport savings book or a letter of credit. But see, someone has to do the mechanical work. The mechanical work, again, I volunteer to do that. It's, you know, I would check with the bank. I would check with the surety company, unless it's an appraised piece of real estate that the town will need to form a legal instrument.
But what you're saying is you're going to build a process,
Precisely.
procedure,
Yeah.
and you're going to be the person,
I'm going to be held accountable.
your position will be the person, the town planner will take care of this.
Correct.
Why wouldn't this be the treasurer?
Well, the treasurer can be the holding agent.
Hold the money.
She basically holds it, okay? But someone needs to do the mechanical part, and again, if the Board of Selectmen choose someone other than the town planner, that's fine.
I guess what I'm saying is when you're going down through, that part, as far as keeping track of bonds and when they're going to expire, should be nothing more than a checklist that you go down through weekly, monthly, whatever, and say, yep, oops, we just hit a flag. And I guess I can't see where the town planner would do that. I would think that would be someone that's going to be used to doing that stuff all the time. Click, 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 click. That person may go up and say, hey, someone else now takes it. Whoops, we got one that's going to expire. And they may pass it to you or whoever. But I would think that type of checklist would not be someone like a town planner. I think that was something that would be done by someone that's doing books and bookwork and paperwork all day long.
It's the wish of the Board of Selectmen.
That's just me.
I mean, it's what it is. It's a simple, self-conceived piece of software with red flags. And as you know, better than anyone else, Frank, you can flag these things in a millisecond, and they'll come up whenever you tell them to come up.
But I guess there's always going to be a treasurer here. There may not always be a town planner.
That's true. And what you can do is the selectmen can delegate it to whoever they feel is appropriate.
I think that, Frank, that part of the delegation, I don't think we should even be interested in it. I think we should leave that part out of the whole discussion, okay? That's the board. When I met with them, I said, you know, it could be Nancy, it could be the town planner.
Yep.
Somebody said, why can't it be the code enforcement
yeah,
officer?
I remember that.
I don't think that it should be the code enforcement officer, okay? Because it doesn't, until there's a violation, it doesn't fall under code enforcement.
But to catch it, to make sure it doesn't expire is a financial issue. I mean, this is bookkeeping. This is, okay, whoops, it's within 30 days.
But
Then you can pass it to whoever we want to pass it, and that would be, but I think the basic one ought to be as cut and dried and as...
Let's leave that up to them, huh?
Yep.
Frank,
Well, that's-
just for clarity, Frank, the only reason I volunteered that was because I understand the process, and I've done it before for the municipalities as their planner, and it was easy. It was.
And once oops, we got one, I think that's fine. Whoever, it ought to be grunt work. I guess that's the only way I can describe it. They can then say, oh, here you go, Tom, tell you. This is the way the process goes. I now toss this to the town planner who runs with it, who understands where to go with this. But I think the basic grunt, we've done grunt, it's not our choice.
I think that we could talk about this all night long. I think what we ought to do
I'll
is,
miss my donuts, I'm not gonna do that.
I know that. Now I might want some ice cream. I really need it, I'm falling away to nothing. I think that, we should have given Tom, the only list I have here is we need a bid bond in some instances, that should be on there. A bond, a letter of credit, hard collateral, land, okay? Escrow account, a drawing escrow account, and a cash savings line with a town drawdown. That's the 5 that I have, and there may be more that I haven't thought of. So if you could take that from my point of view and come back at another meeting with something written up that we could, you could hand us each a copy of it, and we can sit here and read it, then we can add, subtract, and do something, and modify it to what we're looking for. But right now, we're all talking, and we're not going anywhere.
Well, with the board, is there consensus that you'd like to keep it at 125%? So you have that buffer, or maybe up to, I think that's the way you referred to it.
I refer to it up to 125%, but that doesn't necessarily, it can be 50%, that's not my decision. I was just telling you that that's why some people do things if they have a question.
They put a little buffer in it. The reason why I said 100% is, to me, what it is what it is. And if you have a civil engineer saying, or a bid package that says this is what the number is for this 1-year period, then you have the ability to come back and reevaluate. But at the same time, if the town is more comfortable with up to 125, I think it works.
I don't think
way.
a surety company will give you over 100% of the bid, okay?
Exactly.
So that, it's different when you're working on an estimate or you're working on a bid. And I think that's the way the paperwork is going to be drawn up. If you're working on a bid, then you can ask for a bond up to 100%. If you're working on an estimated cost, then you can ask for a bond up to 125%. Because you're not working on any hard figures. The people
Does
have,
the planning board do that, or does the selectmen
no, once
sign on the percentage?
the planning board would require the bond,
Yeah.
okay? And then it would be up to the board of selectmen to determine the amount, I would say, because we're only a little part of this. I mean, there's other things in town. It's more the whole thing. If they hire somebody to build them a fire truck and they want it bonded, or they hire somebody to do an infrastructure project for the town, not somebody building something within the town, but the town itself doing a project. We want a bond.
Doug and board members, would you like to, when I write a draft up for your review and modifications, do you want it written up twice, once for subdivision and once for zoning?
I think
Because
it
there's two
ought to
different
be
animals.
One thing.
with a zoning or a building. I don't think it should even be zoning. I think it should be a building with a separate part of it. And then the selectmen could vote this in as an ordinance.
Yep, I agree.
And the bond ordinance would be, it would tell who was gonna do it, it would tell the enforcement, it would tell how the procedure was gonna work. And what you bring to us is gonna be a draft that we're gonna review, and then hopefully, at that point, we're gonna meet with the board of selectmen after we've hashed it over with you and made the changes that we want, we're gonna meet with them and explain our position, and then they can do what they want with it.
Okay. How about if we do this, I'll have it ready for your next meeting, that you review this. How the board left this was you would go back and see the selectmen a week or two after the town meeting. So this still gives you enough time to take a look at it, make your modifications, and then would the board like to attend and present that to the selectmen? Would you like me to be there with the board?
Let's get the first draft and get back to us, and we'll go from there.
All right,
I have no idea where you want to go from there.
I think we should get ours completed with you,
Okay.
Yeah.
and then I think we should call them into a meeting, and we'll have a joint meeting with the board, and we can all go over it together,
Okay, that makes sense.
okay?
That makes sense.
Ready
So
to
you-
adjourn?
Yes. I've been ready.
Motion to adjourn?
Last hour. I've been adjourned. Is there a second?
Second that.
All in favor?